topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful morning. It's Tuesday, and I get to be here with you. We are already into summer. For the next 10-15 days, it's going to be in 85, 90s. So I'm sure, a lot of people on the East Coast might be saying, what are you talking about? We would love to have those temperatures. So the reason I'm kind of coming to this story or conversation is because so many times we forget what do we have in our lives, and we take so many things for granted. So it's important to take that moment and help someone out, because we all have something that we can share with others. So find that moment, keep that kindness circle going, and share your stories with us. And for those of you who got our books, whether it's Expert to Influencer or the Entrepreneur's Garden, we thank you from our heart, because without you, the show would not be possible. Without you, we would not be able to help other entrepreneurs, because part of the profits go to kiva.org, because I do believe that entrepreneurs are a special species. Yes. And be sure to get our books and support us in spreading our message and helping entrepreneurs. And let's bring in our guest. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's just, as you mentioned earlier, it's just a coffee chat, a conversation between two friends. And let me ask you this. Do you recall any positive moment or a positive person that left a positive mark on you that you even to this day, you think about that moment or that person and you are filled with positivity?
I think there's a lot of people that any one specific person. I think I want to go to where when I was kind of in that state of a little bit of struggling, finding someone's podcast and listening to her mindset and just kind of devouring her podcast, for lack of a better word. And that was something that was really helpful in a time of that I, needed to hear the message. And I think that was like a pivotal point for me.
That's a powerful story. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that so many of us think, oh, I don't have anything to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And just listening to a podcast, and it can make such a difference in someone's life. And similarly, how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up for people in your sphere of influence, how you're showing up for the humanity, it does make a difference. So when you were a young girl, what would you say were your interests?
I loved to swim. And, one of the things is I've kind of picked apart and taken time off and really slowed down and allowed myself to reflect. there are parts of my childhood that, like we remember sometimes the painful parts, and asking my parents or my mom, like, what did I really love? And I loved roller skating and I loved to swim, and the swimming and the ocean and all parts water is something that I still love to do every day. And that was something that, like, to reconnect to her during my time off. Like, what did I love to do and what do I love to do? And it's swimming in all forms, ocean, pool, water sports, all the things.
Yeah, water has a beauty of its own, and especially ocean, since you mentioned about it. It is just so vast and holds such an ecosystem within itself that it's just fascinating to me that what appears on the top is not, it's what it all has. And similarly, we as human beings are like that. So as you grew up, what direction did your life take?
I think, as I was younger, like, 5, 7, 8, something like that, I think, little Erin did all the things. And then there was a pivotal moment in life that I experienced with my parents and their financial situation around the age of 10. And I think that had a profound impact on me in the way that I viewed money and things of that sort. And, after that, it was very much so. I think I was focused. Like I say that I've worked since I was like 12, like I asked my mom the other day, I'm like, why did I work? Like, she was like, because you wanted money to be able to do the things that you wanted to do. And so, reflecting and like having such compassion for little Erin that maybe, yes, had a childhood, right? But like now being able to really do the things that I want to do, play the way that I want to play, and really, really being intentional with how I spend my time now. And I think that probably was how I spend my time now is a reflection, because I think of maybe how I did not get to do that when I was a kid.
Yeah, and as a child, the way I see it is, children are like open canvas, and life paints, life experiences just paints these memories and these pictures on their brain, and that it can just go in different directions. So would you be open to sharing, like you mentioned that at a very tender age of 10, you experienced something. So what was that pivotal moment?
Yeah, my dad I would say my life, right, has been an entrepreneur. And I think that he made some, decisions that we know he made some decisions that impacted, his business. And I think in looking back now, he was doing it he wanted to empower me, right? Like he wanted to teach me about money. He wanted to teach me about responsibility and those types of things. And also, now that I'm a parent, like a 10-year-old just doesn't have the capacity, right, to understand all of that. And so I understand where the message was coming from, right? It was coming from love. It was coming from empowerment. And at 10 years old, right, like you pick up on energy, you pick up on not just words, right? And so the message, the overall message that I received was like, money is a very serious thing, right? And so that is kind of what I took moving forward. And it did help me, right? It helped me, with my career that I had. It helped me with saving and investing. And also now knowing like, okay, money isn't serious. It's, it's meant to, we can have fun with it. We can circulate it. We don't have to hoard it. We don't have to, scrimp and save all of it. Like it's okay to circulate it and move it around, and it likes to be loved on. And so I'm grateful for that. Like I said, like I'm grateful for the message, and also now understanding like I can have a different relationship with money.
Absolutely. And what a beautiful way to put it, Erin, that you took the message, and rather than just taking it as it came, you evaluated it, that how it would show up in your life. So you mentioned that, you have had career in money. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I think I absorbed the message that I received for a long time, right? Like the message that I changed, or the message that I received, isn't the message that I live by now. And that's only been over the last, 4 or 5 years. But for a long time, it was like serious, right? Like I say, like I lived a checklist life, right? Like you hear, like you go to college and you get good grades and you make money and you save for retirement and you make sure your child's education is paid for and you working on paying off the mortgage, like all of the things that Western society kind of boasts about, like these are the things that will make you happy, right? And
Right.
I did all of those things, and I did them from a place of like inadequacy within myself. I did it from a place of and not aware, right? Like at the time, right? Like I just did it from the place of like, if I do this, then I'll feel X, right? And we know that like nothing will ever make you feel any way. And so I kind of had checked all the boxes, and then I was like, well, wait a second, like I'm not very like fulfilled. I'm not exactly happy. I was just living for that next moment. And I think that, the illusion that like, if you have X amount of money, then you're going to feel safe, or then you're going to feel fulfilled, or then you're going to feel happy, like that. I totally bought into that until I got to that place. And then I realized like, this isn't what I want for my life. And so really starting to pick apart, what do I want? How do I want to live? How do I want to be with my money? And, for a long time, I say like, I did not feel safe with money, right? Like I thought that if I could get to a certain point, then I would feel safe, but I kept moving that goalpost, right? Like we would get to a certain amount and then I would save more, right? And then what I realized was like, oh, wait a second, like moving the goalpost isn't changing anything, right? Like this is, and I don't think I had language for it at the time, right? But like, this is an internal job. Like this is something I've got to, because no matter how much money you have, if you continue to accumulate it and you still feel actually more fear is what I felt than less fear. And so really working on that over the last several years to really be at peace with money, to have a different relationship with money, knowing money can come and go, like that's okay too. That has been definitely my growth of like using money, having fun with money, things of that sort.
Yeah, no, definitely. You pointed out a few good things, actually several, that even though you reached the goalpost, and we'll dive into that a little bit, it didn't change anything because that relationship with money was internal, not external. So tell us, like, externally, when you mentioned that you reached a certain point in career, what did that look like?
I don't necessarily know if it was career as much. Like at the time I was working in my family's water and wastewater construction business. So I was helping them, run, a 40 plus year business, with plenty of employees and all of that. It was more so the dollar amount and like assets and things of that sort, and realizing like, oh wait, like we have more money now than we did 5 years ago. And I still I feel more insecure. I feel more scared. I feel more fearful. And so it was actually when my husband and I, we lived in Texas at the time, and we were flipping a house. And I think I never went to the doctor, but I think I had a panic attack. Like I was having, and even though we had money, we were making money, like my body didn't feel that way, right? Like that fear of like exchanging large sums of money and things of that sort. And so that's when I really realized like, I've got to do something with my relationship with money, because I can't continue. Like, I think I was 30, I don't know, 38, 39. I can't continue to like live my life for the next 40, 50 years in this feeling and state of stress and fear and worry. And yeah, it felt like sometimes all consuming is what it felt like.
Yeah, that's very telling that if you're okay, I'd love to do a little exploration of what you said, that you had larger sums of money and that brought on more fear. And what do you think was behind that?
Yeah, I think subconsciously, I think a lot of the things, the messages that I received as a kid, right? Like holding on to money, like money is something to be, like it's a serious thing. And I don't know, like at 10, like I don't remember having those conversations, right? I remember certain events that occurred. I remember how I probably felt when my parents would fight about money, right? And so for me, it was realizing that, and this takes slowing down, right? Like I think that I've talked to a lot of people that workaholism isn't something that really like is talked about. I don't think a lot like in Western society, right? But we use working a lot. It's as a way to, cover up some of those things that we feel about ourselves, whether it's inadequacy, whether it's fear around money, right? Like, and so I was able to slow down and I was able to like start peeling apart this onion and realizing like, oh, this goes deeper than like, when it goes deeper, what I mean is like, it's not just like, oh, me and money, kind of need to like do some, thought work around it. Like this is like in my body does not feel safe, like being hyper vigilant around money. And so, really starting to do some somatic work with money and things of that sort, because I was already doing the mindset work, but things weren't shifting. And so then that's when I really started to get into the body and really start to, feel what I probably had suppressed for many, many years by working a lot, by saving, because that was like the easy way to cover up all of the feelings that I had suppressed for so long.
Mm-hmm. So was this like, you mentioned that, you were feeling in the body. So let's say one of our listeners or one of our audiences, as they're watching us, they're thinking about it and exploring their relationship with money. So what are the pointers? What are some of the things that they can get started on to figure out what kind of relationship do they have?
Yeah, I think just by, slowing down and asking yourself questions like, how do I feel when I look at my financial statements? How do I feel if you're a business owner? How do I feel when I look at my P&L or my balance statement? Or, how do I feel if when it comes time for payroll? How do I feel when, the market, if you're invested, like, how do I feel when the market goes down? Do I like tense up and I'm all scared? Or am I like, what, this is just the way that the markets go? Like, how are you feeling in your body when your kid comes to you and asks you for something, or it's considered a large purchase, right? Like, how do you feel when money is coming in, and how do you feel when money is I don't want to say coming in and going out, but circulating, right? And this takes some slowing down, right? I think we live in such a fast-paced society, so really asking yourself some questions like, how, when am I appreciative that I have the money that I have, or do I think that it's not enough? Am I, wanting more from a place of like where I'm at isn't good enough, or do I want more because I want to be able to circulate more, have more, give more, share more, So asking yourself some questions and getting curious is, I think, always the first step.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And here's what I'll share, that I remember like one of the times in my childhood where my father had been caught in some family business and we had gone through some hard times. And during one of those times, I remember how the situation had changed, how they were interacting, and then how it impacted my perspective.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Like, it's finding about like doing that little research, being that journalist and investigating how your relationship is with money. And so once, let's say, people find out what is the relationship with money, what do they do after that?
Yeah. So I think one, celebrating that, right? Like, I think sometimes we are like, okay, now we know, now what do we need to do? It's like, okay, that can just be for a little bit, right? Like we can just celebrate like, oh, we've noticed what our relationship has been like. And then how do we actually want to be with money, right? Like, and I think, I have lots of thoughts around the self-development world of like, we want to feel abundant, we want to, but like if our body doesn't feel safe, we can't think, like mantras and constantly repeat things if in our bodies it doesn't feel that way. And so, I always say with everybody, like you're going to have to play with different ways, right? Like maybe it's meditation, maybe it's breath work, maybe it's, just sitting there and being with when the feeling comes up, right? Like we aren't taught how to be with our feelings. And if we are just sitting with our feelings, right? Like literally an emotion passes, they say, within like 90 seconds, but a lot of us feel it for much longer because we resist it, right? So breath work or tapping, which is like emotional freedom technique where you can tap. There's lots of different ways to get into the body and to release some of that. Cause it's emotions are just energy and motion. And sometimes they get stuck in places. I don't want to say stuck, cause that feels a little disempowering, but the energy hasn't moved. Right. And sometimes we just need to move the energy. And so really, I always say too, is like being really kind and compassionate with ourselves, right? Because a lot of our relationship with money was formed at a younger age, right? By our caregivers or our parents or by, society. And so some of our beliefs around money aren't even ours. And so asking yourself, like, what do I want my relationship to be like? And then how do I actually want to feel on a daily basis when it comes to money?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very powerful. So what I'm hearing is checking in with yourself and
Yeah.
also going back to what are your core values? And it's so important to look into how you want to live your life by.
Yep.
And when you have your core values, not the definition of success as it has been outlined by your family, by society, by your
Mhm.
mentors, or by your peers, because I have so many clients who come to me and say that I feel so behind, I feel unsuccessful. And when we dig in, we find out that these are not even peers who are in
Yep.
there, who are working with them. These are people who they studied with. Oh, now they're VP, they're director,
Yep.
and I'm only manager. Okay, so it's almost like you're not even comparing apples to apples. It's
Yeah.
comparing apples to oranges, and then that comparison can take the joy, as they say. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I like what you
Mhm.
mentioned about having that compassion. So in your career, I recall you sharing that you had been a financial planner at one point in time.
Yep. Yep.
So tell me what led you to get into that and what led you to getting out of it.
I think obviously, like my upbringing, like I wanted to be empowered with money. I liked it. I liked the finance part of it. When I say it was easy, like I thought I wanted to go to medical school. And so I was kind of going down that path. And then the sciences weren't necessarily like, I didn't enjoy that. But when I got into the finance part, like business, I loved all of my classes. And so, empowering people, obviously, with their money and being able to make decisions and all of that. And, you know, when you know how to manage your money and grow your money and all of that, like that was also a desire of mine. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I've always had, I think, like a servant's heart and wanting to help people and empower them. And so financial planning, was I really liked when I got into my courses and started taking them and I enjoyed it. And so what, you know, a lot of business building, right, is sometimes can be, and it's different, right? I think it's different for me now, but like back then, right? I totally subscribed to like work hard and I was working a lot of hours. And even after 5 or 6 years in, they had made some changes and with like where the company was going. And I didn't know if I wanted to continue to work 60 or 70 hours a week. Now, Erin, now knowing what she knows now, right? Like she could have made a lot of different choices. But I kind of had burnt myself out, and I
Mm,
think because I was at that place of like getting to the like sufficiency was not even in my vocabulary, right? It was always like, when I get to this place, then I can actually relax, then I can, right? But as I already said, right, I kept moving the goalpost. And so that is probably one of the reasons where I just was like, I'm tired of working this much. I'm tired of, it became for me, like, obviously my awareness now, right? Like, this was all internal, like it wasn't fun anymore,
Mm,
for me. And so making a change and wanting, like, what do I want to do? Like, here we go back to evaluating your life, right? Like evaluating what success was like. Um, and not looking outside of myself of like, I mean, in the financial industry, right? Like, we're teaching all of these people how to, save and all of these things. And then yet, like, a lot of us are going to the bar on Friday. Like, there's something, that is not matching up here, right? Like, why aren't we like happy or content,
mm,
Um, and so really just deciding, like, what do I want? My husband, and I were thinking about, maybe having a kid. And so, like, did I want to work that many hours? So it was really at a point where, like, what do I want my life to look like? And working that amount of hours was not the the goal, or I did not want to do that. So
yeah. So sounds like it was a turning point in your life. And as a result, what did you decide to do?
I think for like maybe a week or two, I did nothing. I just quit and I did nothing. And then that's when my dad approached me and said, in a very like nonchalant way, like, do you want to come and help me? I have some, I need some help with, and, as a business owner, like, there are things in your business that you kind of like hold close to your vest, right? And so he was like, I want someone that I can trust, that I can, have someone look after some of the things. And it started as very, I say, innocent, in the sense of like, hey, come and like help me with a couple of things. And then I got in there and started diving in and realized, oh, okay, there's lots of changes that need to be made. And so, yeah, part-time turned into full-time, because here again, I hadn't, sat with and dealt with any of the internal stuff of for myself. And so kind of diving in and really helping. And it was during the 2009 and construction and all of the things. So diving
Mm,
in and really, making a lot of changes in there.
got it. So you helped your father, and then post that, what helped you kind of get into the place where you are at right now?
Yeah. Like, you, at the very first question you asked, like, right, like,
Mhm.
what, I started listening to a podcast and just devoured her, and I enrolled in her group program, and just started getting coached and changing, because the real estate, um, that flipping the house, that was a pivotal moment for me. Like, I don't want to live like this. And so getting coached and working on that, and then over the years, then deciding I wanted to quit my family's construction business, and then building up my coaching practice, and then deciding I just want to take some time off, because I had never really
Mm,
not worked. And so that was what started as 3 months, ended up being 2.5 years, I guess. Um, and
mm,
so during that time off has been my most profound, because it has given me the time to reflect. It has given me stillness. It has given me, um, I've gotten so much clarity, because I've had the space to really, like, what do I want? I knew I wanted to help people financially and in coaching, but like, how did I want to do it? And, um, what did I want it to look like? And just allowing myself that time to play. Like you said, you're asking me when I was a kid. So being able to travel and spend time with my kid and do things that I had always had on the, like, at some point in the future list, doing
mm.
that over the last 2 years, um, that has probably gotten me to where I am now.
So you mentioned about, you said something like, rather than wait for the future, why not implement it today? Because even in the future, all you have is present.
Yep.
So you talk often about 3D and 5D. So can you
Mm,
tell us a little bit about what is 3D aspect of the finances and 5D, and how can you blend the two together?
yeah. The 3D, like I just made up the term because I'm like, people keep coming to me with these things and I'm like, okay, so the 3D, like the three dimension, right? Like what we can see. And I know like, like you think about your money or your taxes or investing. And I know that, you can't necessarily see the stocks, but like those are the things that you do on the material plane, right? On planet
Mhm.
Earth. But then the 5D is like how you feel. And so old Erin was really good in the 3D, but her 5D muscle was not built up at all, right? Like she still felt a lot of fear. She still felt, insecure and inadequate no matter how much money she had. And so when I talk about like blending the two, like I mean, I'm sure we've all met somebody who has millions and millions of dollars and they still are either really unhappy, unfulfilled, or, fearful, right, to let go of some of their money. And so when I say blending those, what I mean is having a healthy relationship with your money, like how you feel with your money, and also being a good steward, right, of your money and being knowledgeable about your finances. And so those are what I mean when I say blending the two together.
Okay. So now, let's say somebody has done the checklist in the sense that like they know what is their value in their lives, how do they want to live. So, and they know what kind of relationship it is. So, can you give a little few tips around how can they have a strong relationship with money where they're not feeling insecure, where they're feeling secure with what they have, along with because and to feel that security, you need a couple of things. So it's not just having like, okay, I'm good with money, money is circulating. It's also important to have a certain amount of money that helps you live your life.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, be secure with that it's okay if I'm circulating it, if I want to go on a vacation, doesn't matter what kind of vacation, it depends on the style you want to live. You're okay with spending that. Then you're
Yeah.
not coming into this nervousness or anything like that because now you're seeing that credit card bill. So, how
Yeah.
can you achieve that?
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of any money is just a reflection of us, right? Like that's what I've really had to learn, right? So you're feeling inadequate about your money. There's some inadequacy that you feel within, right? Like you're feeling
Mhm.
like money isn't good enough. There's some not good enoughness that you feel within, right? And so I always go back to like, how do you actually feel about yourself? Have you nurtured and taken care of that inner child, right?
Mhm.
That feels not good enough, that you're comparing. You mentioned earlier about like we are comparing ourselves to, and the brain naturally wants to do that. But what I always suggest is like compare yourself to how you were yesterday, to how you were 2 years ago, to how you were 10 years ago, right? Like, are you evolving? Have you grown? And most always the answer is yes, right? And so with your, with the, it's not a sexy answer, but it's like, how do you feel about yourself? Have you done some of that internal work and of, loving yourself unconditionally, right? Like, because a lot of us grew up with parents that loved us conditionally. If you do good in school, then you get X, or, and so have you given yourself the love? Have you allowed yourself to play and enjoy? Like, we were sent here to have fun and enjoy ourselves. Life does not have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be hard. Yes, there's effort, right, in anything, but we're not here to like trudge through and get to some point and then we're done. And so how much fun are you having? How much goodness? And I think it's also like, what is our capacity to receive, right? Like
Mhm.
we have a, in the somatic world, like they talk about window of tolerance, right? Like there is a window of tolerance that we also have for receiving, right? Like how good can we allow it to get? So those are things that I would start with, of asking yourself, like something as simple, people always say like I don't know if you've ever noticed, you go out to dinner and they're like fighting over the bill, right? Like, I'll pay. It's just like, why can't you just, like even just something as simple as that. If your friend asks you and they want to pay, then stop fighting, like receive that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have some difficulty with receiving.
Yes, I think so. Most of us do. And that is very true. And that brings us back to what we started out, that starting out with the kindness circle. And what happens is that then you open your heart up and you open up yourself to life. And a very quick story, like yesterday, what happened was I had a lot of couple of systems breaking down, a lot of clients demanding attention. And what I've done is packed in intentional breaks throughout the day. I
Yep.
took them even though I was sweating it, but I took it. And it's about being intentional about it. And sometimes it may not play out as you want, but if you do it, and then at the end of the day, I decided I'm going to call it a day. Yes, I've got a meeting. I'm going to have it over the phone. And guess what? I heard this pitter patter of rain. The skies had opened up, and I wanted to feel some rain drops on my face. I opened the door, just walk out, and there was this beautiful rainbow that I haven't seen in such a long time. So, what a beautiful way to end the day.
Mhm.
So, as you're saying, Erin, opening ourselves to life, and you'll be surprised what life can bring for you. So, Erin, share with us, how you are helping entrepreneurs now, how people can connect with you.
Yeah. If they want to work with me one-on-one, I definitely invite that. Or I am currently having a small group cohort where I talk about like the 3D and the 5D of money, where I bring in, a bookkeeper and a CPA and financial advisor, so that you can ask questions and, really understand that part of the money, as well as, the 5D part, right? Like how we feel with money. And we didn't talk too much about it, but I do help with, human design and like how we actually are meant to move through the world. And so those are the two ways that if someone wants to work with me, they can do that. And then they can, on my website, or they can find me on Instagram. I'm there sometimes at the Erin Gray.
And could you share with us your website, please?
Yeah, it's generatealifewelllived.com.
And what would you say is your vision for the coming years?
That's a good one. Because it's like multifaceted. I think, to help as many entrepreneurs really change their relationship with money and feel safe in their bodies. I think the world could use more people that have money, have fun with money, give money, share money. Mm-hmm. And so helping entrepreneurs have a lot of fun and have an amazing relationship with money, as well as bringing in as many facilitators as I can within the cohort to help them and, grow their business and collaborate.
That's beautiful. Thank you for joining us, Erin. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And dear audience, our listeners, we cannot do anything without you. Thank you so much for your love and support that you shower on us, because I love hearing from you. Reach out to us and share with us how we can serve and support you to live the life you deserve and want. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible.
Thanks, Divya. And Juan, thank you.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.